Let's play for a moment. Picture this. You walk into a room where nobody knows your face, your name, your story, your wins, or your downfalls. And yet, the second your foot crosses that threshold, something subtly shifts. The volume of conversations dips. Eyes flick in your direction. The air seems to tighten, as if your presence alone disturbed the balance. No one said a word, neither you nor them, but something about you has already been judged. It's not a gut feeling. It's a quiet verdict. A ruthless assessment delivered in under 7 seconds. You haven't even spoken, yet you've already been lifted onto a pedestal or tossed into the shadows. Can you feel that? That weight pressing between your shoulder blades? That uneasy knowing that who you are and what you represent is being filtered through eyes that have never met you but believe they already know everything? Now, what if I told you that you could influence that judgment? What if I revealed to you that most people who dismissed you in life did so because of an unspoken signal you gave without even realizing it? The way you entered, the space you occupied, the silence you held or didn't. And here's the eerie part. You do it too, constantly. You scan faces, you size people up, you categorize them, store them in mental drawers. Have you ever stopped to wonder how many doors you've missed by judging too soon? Or how many were slammed shut before you ever had a chance, just because someone sized you up without a word? And yet we continue, day after day, walking into rooms blind to the fact that we're already players in a game with no rules. Every subtle gesture, every unspoken cue could be a dagger or a master key. But what if, just for a second, you had the power to write your own opening scene? What if each step, every glance, every breath served a purpose? What if chance was no longer part of the equation? Imagine walking into any space with full awareness of how you're going to be perceived, as the one who leads without speaking, as the presence who draws respect effortlessly, as the soul no one dares to overlook. Let me tell you something most avoid admitting. The world won't wait for your self-explanation. It measures you instantly, and if you're not shaping those first few seconds, they'll end up shaping you. Here's the real twist. This isn't new. This unspoken evaluation, this instant emotional scanning, has existed forever. It's a timeless dance between presence and perception. Some stumble through it unknowingly, tripping over their insecurities. Others, they glide in silence. They lead without seeking approval, without even speaking. Want to know how? Want to stop being the hunted and quietly become the hunter of the room? You don't need to shout. You don't need titles. Not even charm. You need one thing, to understand how the hidden gears of human perception spin. And here's the uncomfortable truth. It's all within your reach. This isn't some feel-good motivation video. I'm not here to puff up your confidence. I'm here to hand you tools, real ones, tools almost nobody talks about, and even fewer want you to have. Because once you learn to control how others see you, you stop being a piece on the board. You become the one moving it. But before we go further, I'll leave you with a question. Think of the people who change your life the most. Do you actually remember their exact words? Or do you remember the way they made you feel in those first seconds? Exactly. Words fade. But the energy, the posture, the silence, the intention, those are remembered. That's your real weapon. And you've had it all along. You just didn't know how to wield it. Until now. Because after this, you won't walk into a room the way you used to. Here's the most unnerving part. It doesn't matter how much you talk about your values, your dreams, your purpose. If your energy doesn't communicate them instantly, everything else you say comes off like an excuse. People don't hear your words. They feel your presence. That's the trap. And the ones who master perception, they're not the ones with the best vocabulary. They're the ones who master how their energy speaks for them. Now, let's talk about one of the most overlooked but most powerful tools, anticipation. What you think before a social moment dictates how that moment will unfold. That's right. Your first impression doesn't begin at the door. It starts in your head, in the second before you decide who you're going to be. This isn't acting. It's intention. How many times have you entered a meeting thinking, I hope I make a good impression? If that was your mindset, you already lost. Why? because that's the posture of someone begging for approval. That energy is picked up immediately. It shrinks you. Your body language shifts. And you project that without even realizing it. Now flip that script. Before that same meeting, you repeat, I will observe. I will own my space. I will walk in already belonging. Feel the shift? What you're doing is anchoring, prepping your nervous system, placing yourself in the right frequency before a single word is spoken. And people, they don't respond to what you say. They respond to where you're saying it from. Here's another brutally effective technique. Slow your movements. This isn't about being dramatic or striking some artificial pose. It's about pacing control. When we're uncomfortable, we rush. We talk fast. We fidget. We fill silence. That signals one thing: insecurity. And if people sense that you're uneasy with yourself, why should they be at ease with you? Exactly. Nobody puts their trust in someone who isn't in control of themselves. But when you walk slower, when your eyes meet theirs with steadiness, when your voice takes deliberate pauses, you're sending a message. I'm in command. And in this quiet war of impressions, control equals respect. Let's take it deeper. Consider the environment. Most people step into a room blind to the invisible dynamics at play. But every space has silent rules, and they aren't set by the loudest voice. They're shaped by the one who positions themselves best. You know what the truly influential do? They choose their spot. They don't cling to corners. They don't try to disappear into the wall. They don't try too hard to be seen either. They simply place themselves where presence and ease collide, a space where they're visible without looking like they want to be. That one decision, where you stand, changes how others map the social hierarchy. Still with me? Because now we enter the most powerful layer of all, emotional vibration. Sounds abstract, but it's not. We've all been near someone who made us feel either nervous or calm without saying a word. Where does that come from? Emotional alignment. You can't radiate confidence while fighting chaos inside. That's where emotional grounding comes in. Not some vague spiritual fluff, real neuroscience. Before entering a room, take a quiet moment. Don't plan what to say. Just tune in. Breathe deeply. Feel your body. Mentally affirm your purpose. You're calibrating your nervous system to broadcast certainty. And here's the thing. Real calm can't be faked. It's either there or it isn't. And when it is, people feel it. When people feel you as steady, they let their guard down. They open up. Why? Because your presence makes them feel safe. And when others feel safe around you, they start looking to you for direction without you ever asking for it. That's power. And finally, let me leave you with one of the most subtle, most masterful manipulations. Stop waiting for a reaction. Most people feel insecure in social settings because they're looking for a sign, a smile, a nod, some kind of green light that says, you're doing fine. Don't chase that. Own the moment and let them come to you. Now imagine, instead of waiting for validation, you simply remove that expectation. Rather than anticipating approval, you're the one who gives it. You choose who to smile at when to make eye contact, who gets your nod. You control the tempo. And at that point, the whole dynamic changes. You no longer try to fit in. You're the one deciding who gets to fit in with you. And let's be clear, this isn't arrogance. It's intentional. It's understanding your own power. It's stepping out of the passive identity we were taught to accept as kids, the one that quietly asks for permission to exist, and stepping into one where you create presence unapologetically. Let me put it plainly. No one's going to come save your self-esteem. No one will hold your hand every time you doubt your worth. No one's going to train you to be seen as valuable. That responsibility is yours. And it starts right here, by realizing that in those first few seconds of any interaction, people aren't measuring your essence, they're reading your vibration. And you define that vibration. Reading books about self-esteem and reciting affirmations in the mirror, that's not enough. What actually changes your presence is the buildup of internal choices made before the world sees you. How you breathe, how you place your body, what thoughts you permit right before facing others' judgment. That's your real training. Want to know why people with real presence seem to carry some kind of energy around them? It's because they're not competing. They don't need to convince. They're not begging for approval. They're at peace with themselves. And that calm in a world full of social tension is magnetic. Stick with this, because what's coming next might sting, but it'll free you. Want to know the real divide between those who control perception and those who constantly feel unseen or dismissed? It's not beauty, not clothing, not even charisma. It's how they relate to one word: rejection. Yep, that thing that keeps most people stuck before they even try. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: if you're afraid of being rejected, you subconsciously invite rejection. It doesn't come from the outside. It's a reflection of inner uncertainty. People afraid of not being liked tend to adopt defensive micropostures. They avoid eye contact. They soften their voice. They shrink. They don't take up space. And here's the wild part: that very behavior causes rejection. Not because there's something wrong with them, but because the subconscious brain of others reads insecurity as danger. Primitive minds still treat uncertainty like a threat. So what happens with threats? They get avoided, ignored, rejected. But when you confront that, when you face the idea that you might be disliked or judged and still choose to take up space without apology, something in your energy shifts. People feel it immediately. You're no longer silently asking to be accepted. You're saying, "I'm here, take it or leave it. I'm not shrinking for anyone." And that's raw power. Let me take you even further into the deeper, darker, but fascinating territory of strategic vulnerability. Now, I'm not talking about turning your pain into a public performance or sharing your trauma for applause. No, I'm talking about showing vulnerability intentionally, on your terms, and with purpose. Because if all you ever project is strength, you may seem invincible but also untouchable. But when you share a crack, just enough, without losing your footing, the impact is enormous. People think, "This person is so secure, they don't fear being real." Do you get it? Vulnerability isn't weakness. If it's used with precision, it adds depth. It makes your presence multidimensional. But for it to work, it has to come from choice, not need. That's the fine line between being seen as a victim or as a powerful leader with battle scars. Now let's dive into something so obvious it's invisible: the hidden intention behind every interaction. Because mastering your voice, your body, your energy, that's not the final layer. There's a deeper force, the why behind your actions, the silent reason that powers your tone, your gestures, your every move. People can't read your mind, but they can sense when you're driven by fear, by desperation, by comparison. And they can feel when your intentions are clear, firm, and powerful. This leads us to one brutal but essential concept: vibrational coherence. Your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. If they don't align, people feel it. They might not know why, but something will feel off. That mismatch repels. Not because of what you're doing, but because of where you're doing it from. But when all three, thoughts, feelings, actions, are in sync, the impact is magnetic. You can't fake that. Either you're in sync or you're not. And that kind of internal harmony, it's built in silence, through repetition and self-ownership, not scripted lines. But let's level up one more time. Let's talk about using something that most avoid like the plague: tension. Yes, tension. Instead of dodging it like most people do, generate it. Hold it. Own it. Because tension creates attention. And whoever controls attention controls the entire interaction. This might sound Machiavellian, and honestly, it kind of is, but it works. Here's how. Don't rush to respond to every question. Don't laugh just because others do. Don't feel the need to fill every silent second. Most people fear silence, and they race to break it. You don't. You own it. You hold it like a blade. And when you do that, the room turns. People wait. They wonder what you're thinking. And suddenly you become the center, not by being loud, but by being still. That's control. That's power. Now, since we're already walking to the hallways of high-level influence, let's talk about another concept most forget: narrative aura. What unspoken story does your presence tell? Because make no mistake, we all radiate a narrative. I'm important. I'm not worth noticing. I'm dangerous. I'm invisible. We say it without words, through our posture, our pauses, our subtle reactions. The people who control perception, they build a narrative on purpose, one that aligns with their essence. And once they do, they don't have to explain themselves. Their whole presence does the talking. But here's the catch. This only works when your narrative is rooted in a solid identity, one that's built through ruthless self-reflection, uncomfortable silence, and letting go of needing people to like you. Because the more you release your need to be seen a certain way, the more you can control exactly how you're seen. Yeah, it's a paradox, but it's real. External perception always starts with internal conviction. So here's the final truth almost no one will tell you. You don't need to be liked. You need to be felt and remembered. And that doesn't happen through polite smiles and hoping for sympathy. It's built through a presence so clear, so deliberate, so centered, that people can't help but notice, even if they try to ignore you. This isn't arrogance. It's strategy. Because remember, those first few seconds, they've already made up their minds. The only question is, are they deciding who you are or are you